Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into a serious topic, and folks, I'm not going to sugarcoat it: crime in Asia. We're talking about the countries grappling with the most notable crime issues. From the bustling streets of Mumbai to the more, shall we say, remote corners of Afghanistan. We're talking about everything from violent crime to the kind of corruption that would make a FIFA official blush. Buckle up, everyone, because we're about to get into some seriously heavy stuff. Let's start with Afghanistan, a country that's been through more than its fair share of turmoil. Decades of conflict, political instability that would make a seesaw look stable, and enough terrorist groups to overwhelm even the most jaded counterterrorism expert. This perfect storm has led to elevated crime rates, kidnapping, armed robbery, and drug trafficking on a massive scale. But the real story is the human cost. These are real people trying to live their lives in constant danger. The international community needs to provide real tangible support, because nobody deserves to live like that. If you find this video useful, please like, share, and subscribe. Next up, we're heading east to Pakistan, a country that's often in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Now, Pakistan has this whole powder keg of issues thing going on. You've got violent crime, terrorism that's sadly become a grim reality of daily life, sectarian violence that makes the Montagues and Capulets look like best friends, and organized crime that's so deeply entrenched, it makes the mafia look like an amateur baking club. And let's not forget about the elephant in the room, or rather the elephant in the entire country: corruption. It's so widespread in Pakistan that it's practically become a national pastime. I mean, it's everywhere, from the highest levels of government down to the local police officer who pulls you over for a broken taillight. This culture of impunity, where the powerful seem to operate above the law, only emboldens criminals and makes it harder for ordinary Pakistanis to feel safe. It's like trying to play a game of chess where your opponent can just flip the board whenever they feel like it. But here's the thing about Pakistan: it's also a country of incredible resilience. Despite all the challenges, there are people working tirelessly to bring about change. Journalists, activists, and everyday citizens are risking their lives to speak out against injustice and demand a better future, and that's something worth fighting for. Now let's talk about India, a country that's home to over 1 billion people. That's more people than the entire continent of Europe. India's crime problem is massive and complex. Sexual violence against women is still a horrifying reality, and theft is so common it's practically a competitive sport. Corruption is deeply ingrained. Crime rates vary widely. Urban areas like Delhi and Mumbai, where pickpocketing is common. States like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar have a reputation for being less safe. But India is making strides in addressing its crime problem. The government has implemented initiatives to improve law enforcement and tackle corruption. There's a growing awareness of women's rights and a push for greater gender equality. However, there's still a long way to go. India needs to address the root causes of crime, such as poverty, inequality, and a lack of education. Until those issues are tackled, crime will continue to cast a long shadow over this vibrant and diverse nation. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're heading to the Philippines, a country that's unfortunately become synonymous with violent crime. We're talking about a place where drug-related killings are so common they barely make the news anymore, where kidnappings are a legitimate business venture, and where terrorism, particularly in the southern region of Mindanao, has become a terrifying fact of life. And if that wasn't enough, the Philippines is also grappling with rampant corruption and human trafficking, which, let's be honest, is just a polite way of saying modern-day slavery. It's a toxic cocktail of lawlessness that's left many Filipinos feeling like they're living in a real-life action movie, but without the benefit of a script or a stunt double. Now, the previous administration's war on drugs, while well-intentioned, has been a bit of a disaster, to put it mildly. It's led to thousands of extrajudicial killings, often without any due process or accountability. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Well-intentioned perhaps, but ultimately disastrous. But amidst all this chaos, there are glimmers of hope. The Filipino people are resilient and they're demanding better from their leaders. There's a growing movement for peace and justice, and people are working tirelessly to create a safer and more equitable society. Next up, we're heading to Bangladesh, a country that's often overlooked but facing some serious challenges. Bangladesh is one of the most densely populated countries in the world. And with that comes a whole host of problems, not least of which is crime. We're talking about violent crime that can erupt over something as simple as a parking dispute, political violence that makes your average town council meeting look like a picnic in the park, and corruption that's so deeply ingrained it would make a termite blush. And if that wasn't enough, Bangladesh is also a major hub for human trafficking and drug trafficking. It's a country where poverty and desperation drive many to make choices they wouldn't otherwise make, and where criminals prey on the vulnerable with impunity. But amidst all this, there are signs of progress. Bangladesh has made remarkable strides in reducing poverty and improving education. And there's a growing civil society that's demanding accountability and transparency from its leaders. Let's set sail for Indonesia, an archipelago nation with a crime problem as diverse as its islands. From the bustling streets of Jakarta to the tourist haven of Bali, crime is an unfortunate reality in Indonesia. We're talking about terrorism, which has reared its ugly head in recent years, violent crime that can leave you feeling like you're living in a Liam Neeson movie, and corruption that's so pervasive it would make a termite proud. Now, Indonesia's crime problem isn't evenly distributed. Places like Jakarta and Bali, with their high concentration of tourists and expats, tend to have higher rates of petty crime, like pickpocketing and scams. But that doesn't mean you're safe in the more remote areas. Indonesia's vast size and porous borders make it a prime location for drug trafficking and human trafficking. And let's not forget about the environmental crimes like illegal logging and fishing that are devastating the country's natural resources. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're heading to Myanmar, a country that's been making headlines for all the wrong reasons lately. Myanmar, also known as Burma, has been gripped by a military coup, plunging the nation into chaos and violence. The junta's brutal crackdown on dissent has led to widespread human rights abuses, including extrajudicial killings, arbitrary arrests, and torture. But even before the coup, Myanmar was grappling with a host of crime issues. Ethnic conflict, particularly in the Rakhine state, has displaced hundreds of thousands of Rohingya Muslims who have been subjected to horrific violence and persecution. And then there's the drug trade. Myanmar is the world's second largest producer of opium, and the illicit drug trade fuels corruption and instability throughout the country. Next up, we're heading to Thailand, a country that's often marketed as a tropical paradise, but has a dark side that's often overlooked. Thailand is a major hub for drug trafficking and human trafficking, particularly in the border regions. The country's lax law enforcement and corrupt officials make it easy for criminal networks to operate with impunity. And then, there's the violent crime. While Thailand is generally considered safe for tourists, there have been a number of high-profile cases of violence against foreigners in recent years. And let's not forget about the scams. From fake monks to rigged jet ski rentals, Thailand is a haven for con artists looking to make a quick buck off unsuspecting tourists. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're heading to Iraq, a country that's been ravaged by war and instability for decades. After the US-led invasion in 2003, Iraq descended into chaos and violence. Sectarian violence between Sunni and Shia Muslims tore the country apart, and terrorist groups like ISIS took advantage of the power vacuum to seize control of vast swaths of territory. While the Iraqi government has made progress in recent years in pushing back against ISIS and restoring some semblance of order, the country remains deeply unstable. Violent crime is rampant, corruption is endemic, and the threat of terrorism is ever present. And finally, we come to North Korea, the most isolated and secretive country on Earth. Getting accurate information about crime in North Korea is like trying to find a needle in a haystack in the dark while wearing oven mitts. The government tightly controls all information that leaves the country, and independent journalists and human rights observers are routinely denied access. But what we do know is deeply troubling. North Korea has a long and well-documented history of human rights abuses, including arbitrary imprisonment, torture, and execution. The government also operates a vast network of gulags, where political prisoners are subjected to forced labor and inhumane conditions. And then, there's the government's involvement in criminal activities. North Korea has been accused of counterfeiting US currency, smuggling drugs, and selling weapons on the international black market. So there you have it, folks. A glimpse into the complex and often troubling world of crime in Asia. It's a vast and diverse continent, and crime manifests itself in different ways in different places. But one thing is clear, crime thrives in environments where there is poverty, inequality, corruption, and a lack of opportunity, and it's often the most vulnerable members of society who suffer the most. If we want to create a safer and more just world, we need to address the root causes of crime and work together to build a future where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Let us know in the comments which country's crime issues surprised you the most. Stay safe and see you next time.